Welcome to Healed, Whole, Called, a podcast centered on the healing power of Jesus and what it means to walk in wholeness and calling in real life. This is a space for honest conversations about faith, healing, and restoration, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and how those truths meet us in everyday life. This podcast is supported by the Story Discernment Guide, a reflective resource created for those who sense they are carrying a story meant for more, but want clarity before writing, publishing, or sharing it publicly. The guide is designed to help you pause, pray, and discern what you're stewarding without rushing or pressure. You can access it at storycalling.info. And now, here's your host, Wendy Melrose.
Hello, everybody. Today's guest is a voice of love, light, and hope. Amber Johnson is the creator of the BEE channel, which stands for Blessings, Edifying, and Encouraging Others to live their best lives. Through blogging and podcasting, she shares God's truth and encouragement on topics close to her heart, including faith, caregiving, grief, and relationships. Amber's mission is simple, yet powerful: to spread the love and hope of God with every post, every conversation, and every connection. You can follow her in her journey and encouragement on Instagram at BChannel27. That's BEE Channel 27. So, hello, Amber.
Hey.
So I would love to just dive straight in because we love to talk about from trauma, tragedy to triumph. So let's just dive back into where God pulled you through some things, because that's why I believe that you are on the mission to share the truth of, who He is and how He loves us, even though things don't go always according to our plan.
Yes, so to take it all the way from the beginning, my father, he was a stroke survivor. And around 2012, 2013, he started having these TIAs, also known as transient ischemic attacks. And what happens with that is when you have an irregular heartbeat, like AFib, that can lead to a stroke. So, everybody out there, if you have a loved one with AFib, make sure that they are aware of that. They're getting their checkups and things like that, because we did not know at the time that that was the cause of the strokes. And so he got better. And he and through that process, he was also taking care of my grandmother. So it's a legacy of caregiving here, and I just felt like that was really, the way that I should move forward, because of the way that he took care of his mother so tenderly. She had a stroke, and so I was like, yeah. So everything got better. She, unfortunately, she passed away, and then everything, he was better and stuff like that. Fast forward to 2017 of August. In August of 2017, he, unfortunately, he got hit by a car. So after that happened, he was bedbound. And so we had to do everything for him. Me and my mom, we were a team for the last 7 years, soldiering through that. But prior to that, it was pretty much like the last 12 years in totality of just being really concerned for him, and just worrying about him, because he would just go outside early, and we didn't know necessarily where he was going, and he would just go places, and we were like, we looked at the bank statement, that's how we knew where he was. and, and be like, and he would just come back and be like, where were you all day? So just like, it was a lot of different things going on in that season. And then once he became bedbound, of course, we know where he was, but it was just so much going on, that so many different emotions, and I don't even think I even took the time in that season to even grieve what happened with him getting hit by a car. It was just like, oh, that happened. And then within like a year, he was back home. We were going back and forth to the hospitals and step down units and rehab places for like 8 months. So after that, he got back home. So it was like, hey, and then we had to just keep the ball rolling, right? And do some IV care and trach care, and they had a feeding tube, and it was just so many different things that we had to do over the course of his treatment, like wound care as well. My mom had to do that. So it was just so many different things that had to be done for him, that it was all consuming, and it was just a long journey, but it was something that I don't regret, because I know I would have regretted it if I did not show up for him at all, and if I just moved on, because there's this tendency when you're young for people to say, "Oh, why are you doing that? You should be traveling. You should be dating." But no, though, like I can't leave my mom in a lurch like that. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just, I felt like that was like what I was supposed to be doing. And the pandemic definitely solidified that along the way. Like it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm gonna be here for my dad, and that's what we're gonna do. Just soldier on through. And then because he was good to me, like he took care of me. So it's because I know there are situations where people, their parents are not good to them, and they'll be like, I don't know about this, but then there's people that still do the right thing even though they didn't have the best parental situation. But for me, I loved my daddy, so I was willing to be there through all of the craziness and whatever happened, whether we had to cry, scream, laugh, whatever it was. And so me and my mom, we know we did everything we could do for him. And then unfortunately, October 9th of 2024, he passed away. So as we record this, I'm 6 days from the 1 year mark. It's October 3rd, 2025. So I've had a lot of time to think about it and a lot of time to just process. And I just thank God for therapists, bereavement counselors, support groups, friends and family who stuck by me. Prayer journaling. I call it also I like to call the whole thing of prayer journaling, listening to praise and worship music, reading the Bible and prayer, all that kind of stuff. I call that worship snacks. So that got me through. That paid off dividends in my life by being able to have something stored up in my brain that was positive and affirming.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things have got me through this time. But that is what happened in a nutshell.
Well, I would love to ask you a challenging question. Was there ever a time in those 12 years that you questioned the sovereignty and goodness of God?
Yeah, because every time that he would go to the hospital for something, it was just like I felt it so deeply because I'm such an empathetic person. So it was like he's going again, and it just I was like it would just do me in to see him being carried out. Sometimes I couldn't even be downstairs when he was just being carried out because he was in the dining room. And I'm just like, ugh. So I didn't know why all this was happening, and I didn't like it was an isolating thing, and you can question like, okay, what's going on here, and that God is in control because he gives you the grace to endure the things, but you do feel like it's a push and a pull. I think that I didn't really feel um the brunt of that feeling until grief, because when he passed it was just like I've heard people say, "Oh, that's the time when you really just kind of go away from God, right? When somebody you lose somebody." But for me, I was like, I have to cling because I don't have anything else to cling to. I lost my earthly father, but I have my heavenly father. But it's so many like mixed emotions because it's like I've heard people like Priscilla Shire say, she said, I could not even pick up the Bible, but what I did was she said she talked about this podcast called The Truth's Table, and they would read devotions to her, and she would just read that or listen to that every day for like that whole year because she had a hard experience in her life of within 2 years time period or something like that. Her family had endured the loss of like something like 8 people, and she wrote a book about it called Divine Disruption, and that book was so pivotal. And I read that before all this stuff even happened, like in the midst of caregiving, before I lost them and everything. And I was just like, man, that thing was deep how she walked through that. And I like how she was honest. Like I couldn't even open my Bible. It was all I could do to just listen to the devotionals for a year. And I say, yeah, that you have to really do what works for you. But I just think that it was so important because I wanted to keep my heart soft and not
Mm-hmm.
get bitter. And so
Mm-hmm.
whether I felt like it or not, I opened up the Bible app every day. This last year there was not a day that I missed, and that's something that I can be proud of. Even if I didn't read gargantuan amounts of the Bible, I was able to say, hey, I got my scripture for the day, I got my guided prayer in for the day, this email devotional, I did that, or listen to some type of biblically sound podcast. So it's like i I fought for it. I feel like I really had to fight for it. I had to
Sure.
fight.
Well, and I think so often that people think that when they go through hard times, that they still, I mean, we have a different levels of capacity of what we can and cannot do or able to do when it comes to our relationship with the Lord. And He understands and relates to that. If all you have is the ability to lay in bed, cry, and just weep in the arms of their Heavenly Father, He collects those tears. He's still there. If that's all you have, we do not have to. It's not, it's, I think so often we let the spirit of religion get in the way of our relationship with the
Mm-hmm.
Lord. It's not about going to church. It's not about making sure you read so many verses. It's not about making sure you praise in a particular way. Sometimes all we have left to do is to weep in the arms of our Savior. And it doesn't mean those other things are bad.
Right.
But nothing has to be a certain way for him to receive us. He just wants us to just say help.
Right. And that's, I think that's the process I'm going through, even with the like certain facets of having a relationship with God, like with prayer. It talks about Matthew 6, don't babble on as the pagans do, for He knows what you need for you ask. So it's like understanding I don't have to be all eloquent, I don't have to be robotic, I don't have to say these certain things all the time. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like sometimes it's easier to articulate prayers when I journal them rather than say it. I
Mm-hmm.
can just get things out more and really be more honest about what's going on in me. And that's what I love about the guided prayer in the Bible app. I put on that music, and I was like, the music just kind of soothes me, and I just start writing like whatever scriptures they have. Like I won't. Sometimes I will try to break the scripture down and be like, like in my own words, what does this truly mean? What attributes of God do I see here? But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I would just free write and just say like, like whatever I feel, whatever that kind of brings up for me, what they're talking about in the scripture. But it really depends on the day, and just like being able to flow more and not be like rigid and so structured. And
Mm-hmm.
but I thrive off of structure, but I'm learning that you have to learn how to just breathe and flow sometimes. And that's a lot of what grief taught me, because I'm getting back into a routine. But the whole time that I was doing all the caregiving stuff, I had to have a routine, but I kind of was able to let some of that go because of the grief. And like, you can't do this today.
Right.
Maybe you need to just, like you said, lay in the bed. Maybe you just need to do nothing. Maybe you need to watch your favorite show. Like, and even with music, that was like when you talk about like the sovereignty of God, like that's how you know you really going through something, when you don't listen to music like you should. So now it's like I'm having to force myself a little bit, because I know that it's good for me, especially when it's like people are saying verses or they're preaching, or it's like
Mm-hmm.
it gets really energizing, like when you
Mm-hmm.
listen to the right songs. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting, like the push and the pull, and it's kind of like a tug of war within yourself, and you're like, all right, I know you good for me, but I have to figure out what does our relationship look like right now.
Sure. And was there ever a moment that you got mad at God? And it's okay. Like one of the things I feel like people don't understand is that, that God only wants us to show up in our Sunday's best and with our best attitude and with the right words and with honor and reverence. But He wants us to show up with our real raw feelings.
Yeah, I'm learning that it's okay to be like David, because I call him the master reframer. I just like said this yesterday. It just really occurred to me so deeply that he was the master reframer. He would say his raw emotions, he would process things with God out loud, and he would just, so we have it on record of him doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he would just be like, why is my soul so downcast? But then he'd be like, I put my hope in God. He would give himself this really stern pep talk about it. Like he would let himself go through it, but he would come back to, okay, God, I know who you are. I know you for me. I know you got me. So it's just learning that whole process of scriptural reframing to say, hey, this is how I feel, but still, this is who you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like for me, I don't know if I really got mad. Um, I feel like my therapist helped me a lot with it, like, yo, like, because when you love somebody really hard, it could kind of be where you forget about God to that point where it's like, oh yeah, I love my daddy, I love my daddy, and like, and then when he goes, it's like, what do I do now? But because you feel unanchored, untethered, you
Mhm.
feel unsecure, like insecure about like life, because that's your person, the one man that loved you deeply, unconditionally
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
earth.
Mhm.
So I was just like, I had to deal with that. Like, what does that look like? Why? Like, how do I understand that I still have God? And just like, I think God was trying to deal with me about that, because he was like, well, I felt like it was in his kindness, even though it was a hard thing for my dad to die. Don't get me wrong. I feel like it was his kindness, because he knew that if I really, if he let me keep my daddy, I might have been here for like the next 20, 30 years just taking care of him. Okay, we gotta do this feed tube. Let's put this bag on. Let's go. Like we gotta do this. Oh, I gotta empty your bag of urine. Okay, we gotta do that. Okay, let's go. We gotta do your vitals. Okay, let's go. I would have been willing, because he took care of me and got me to this point, you know? And so
So
it's
essentially, you were sacrificing your literal life to care for your daddy, and that doesn't go unseen. And the beauty that I'm just summarizing to make sure I understand is that yes, you took care of your dad, and the Lord took him home
mm-hmm,
to give him eternal rest and
mm-hmm,
celebration in the heavenlies, right? And
mm-hmm.
now you can live your life that God had planned for you from the beginning.
Right. And I feel like my dad literally laid down his life for his mother. So it was like I saw that example, and that's what made me be like, I'm gonna go hard, like, and I'm gonna show up for my mom, because it's important to have that support system. And it was really just us, and that made us closer because we had no choice.
Hmm.
Even if we got mad at each other, even if
Yeah,
I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm discouraged, I'm like really just sad, I could still understand, okay, we're in this together,
right.
so that was vital because we held each other up in that way.
So then how is God using all of this great life experience you're still very young. How is he using all of this life experience for you to have your ministry that you're doing today with B Channel?
I feel like it was kind of like a long time in the making, because when I first started out, I was like, people were saying, oh, because I had been on this weight loss journey like in 2016, and people were like, oh, you should be sharing about that, like, how do you do that? And so I would share, and then it was like it just became a thing where it kind of pivoted, and I was like, I want to talk about books that I read in my quiet time, because I don't see nobody reviewing books. So I started to do that, and then I started to have people on and have conversations like a few years back. So that's been a fun journey, just talking to people, and I'm realizing that it's like it's important to have the conversations about faith, because people don't know what they don't know about certain things, and you feel like it's all black and white, but there's so much nuance in life. And
Hmm.
also like the relationship conversations, because a lot of people, there are things that a lot of people don't know about how to have like relationships, and not just romantic relationships, but just like platonic relationships, and just do life with people. And I think that everything that I went through, is like it makes me a better person, because I'm more empathetic. I'm able to have compassion for people, have grace for people, but
Hmm.
also I've learned like, oh, you need to like pace yourself and have boundaries about things, because when you're a compassionate person, that's what you learn quickly.
Hmm.
Like you after all this.
Right, right, right. So what is the Lord doing in your life now?
I think he's refining me. I feel like that's like the word of the season for me. It's like he's refining me. He's trying to refine my focus, trying to get me to really like narrow down what I'm concerned about and what matters to me. What do I value? What do I care about? And who am I? Because the truth is, when you lose somebody, you are a different person than before you lost a person. So you have to figure out navigating that, and he kind of stripped you down to the studs. It's like my life is being renovated right now, and I have to just like build it back up. Like, okay, what is important to have in this house, this house of my life? What is important and what is not important? And that's what grief shows you. It's like what matters. And life is short. and it's fragile and it's precious. So who matters and what matters? And so that's kind of what I'm going through right now.
Mm. So have you, with the rebuilding and
Mm-hmm.
the pruning and the refining and all the things, which can be painful, but
Mm-hmm.
it can be beautiful because he's probably showing you things you even probably forgot, your heart's desires you had when you were a child, and he's re digging that back up to restore you, to redeem your dreams that you had. Are you seeing that?
I feel like it's so weird because I know a lot of people have like these dreams and they have like they whole life planned out. I feel like I never really had like a concrete dream where I didn't even have the time to dream because that period of my life I was parentified. I don't know if you ever heard that term, but
Uh-uh.
it's like when you are the child, but then you have to take the role of a parent because of what's going on, because your parent has regressed or they're not able to take care of themselves. So you
Mm,
begin to take on their role.
mm,
And so that kind of stunted my development in a certain kind of way where certain things that people might be experiencing as a teenager or figuring out in their
mm,
20s, I'm just now figuring it out in my late 30s as I just turned 36. I'm just figuring out everything. It was like not I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting from experience, but I'm just trying to figure out like what is next and
mm.
what all or like what really do I want. So that's kind of a journey of like, discovery and exploration.
Right, right, right. Oh, that's wonderful because and this is one of the things the listeners need to always remember. It doesn't matter how old you are. And because you didn't have that ability, you get to go on a sacred journey with the Heavenly Father now.
Yeah, it feels good to have the space to do it, but it still is an ache, of course, because it's like, I miss my daddy. And,
Yeah.
he won't be seeing the things, but I do write letters to him. That's one of the things that I've incorporated, and if like when it's a milestone, I sit and like I'll look at his dog tag or I'll look at a picture and I'll read the letter to him. And so
Mm,
he kind of know what's going on. And then that's the thing people think when a person passes that the relationship ends, but it evolves, it changes into a different type of thing. And it's crazy because even though he's been gone, it's like the relationship is different anyway. like not just in the fact that he's not here, but just like the way I talk to him through the letter is
mm-hmm.
this is a whole different Amber. It's crazy, and you wouldn't even think that that was a thing, but it is a thing. And just realizing that yes, in spirit he's with me, but it's still one of those things. It's like a dichotomy, and it's two things can be true at one time. Just how you walk through life. It's called dialectical thinking. So it's like yeah, I can have joy, but I can still have sadness about that. I can move forward, but not leave him behind. I'm still gonna
Mm-hmm.
have the grief. It doesn't go away, but I'm managing it. I learn how to carry it differently as time goes on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
yeah.
heard somewhere recently, because somebody had said, like, how do you move on in life with the whole of the person who passed away? And I don't know if I'll get this right or wrong, but the way I interpreted it is that they said that as life goes on, the hole doesn't go away, but it gets smaller because your life gets bigger around you.
Yeah, your heart. That's what my therapist, she had drew these hearts, like concentric hearts. And she was saying, that part of your life, she colored it in like, okay, that's not there like it used to be. But your heart gets bigger to make
Hmm.
more room for other things. And it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, that part is always going to be there and it's always for him. But
Hmm.
it's like you make more room in your life for other things because of that, not to fill a void, because that's so important not to fill a void, but because it's like you genuinely want to do something else. And you can always do things to honor the person. You can always talk about the person to keep their memory alive, do things that they love, listen to music they love, eat what they like to eat. Just all those kind of things is important. So that's what I'm learning. It's like it's still they're still with you, but it's just they've changed shape, they've changed form, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
One of the things my pastor Joe Dobbins at our church that we go to, he talked about how the list of things that you've been through is on the
Hmm.
left, the list of people who are going through it on the right. That's your ministry. Are you noticing others around you? Obviously, tomorrow you get to experience going to a funeral for a loved one,
Mm-hmm.
and you can now have a relation, like a relatability to those now. Are you noticing that you're seeing around you people that are hurting in the way that you are as well, and that you're connecting in a way that you couldn't before?
Um, it's so funny because I feel like every time before this, like it would be so many people that would lose somebody, and that was always my inclination to show up for people
Mm-hmm.
because that's just my heart to show up for people. But
Mm-hmm.
now I understand that there's nuance, and you have to understand what that person needs because grief is like a fingerprint. It's not the same for any person. The experience is not going to
Uh-huh.
be the same. So I can't do what I would do for Sally, for Tony, or for Eve or whoever. I have to say, hey, what do you need, and not say do you if you need anything, because I hate that phrase. I really
Yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah. Because they're
because
not
it
going to
just
even know.
yeah, you don't know, and that was the thing that I had to realize too. In hindsight, I didn't know, but now that I know, I can know to ask that person and say, what do you need from me? What does support look like for you? And even just like calling and saying, hey, da 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 da, and give the grace for them not to call you back. And because I did a whole podcast episode how to support people who are grieving. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and I also recently did the last episode of my season was called Crazy Little Thing Called Grief. And so I was just updating it, because that was at the 5 month mark of when I was, I posted that, like that was the point I was at, in the video when I
Mm-hmm.
recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
So even then I've grown in that 6 months since I posted it. So it's like, just understanding what it's like for you is doesn't mean it's going to be like that for the other people, and just
Right.
trying your best to let them know that you're there. I'm here. That's enough to say I'm here
Mm-hmm.
for you. Call me, text me. I told her, I was like, cry, scream, vent, whatever you got to do. You could do that. I'm here for that. But also, it's like I was noticing, it's like it was several people around my age that had also lost their fathers within the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And this throughout this whole year or last couple of years, it's been people that have lost their fathers. So I was like gravitating toward those people and trying to tell them, some of them were um like a couple, like one girl was like ahead of me in the journey. That thing was hope different for her, I'm sure, but I didn't really get that close to her to really ascertain that all the details. But then there were people that were behind me, and so I would just be like, hey, I'm here. But after a while, it can weigh on you. So you have to know, as a grieving person, your heart is going to be towards those people. If you have that empathy in you, your heart is going to be towards those people. But you have to understand that you are a person too that needs your love and support. So you have to understand to take care of yourself so you can continue to pour into other people from the overflow, not from the cup. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was wearing myself out. And like even
Mm-hmm.
with my mom's best friend, when she had lost her daughter, I was like, I was the one like, call her, let's call her every month, like just keep for the last 8 months been trying to call and check on her birthdays and different moments. And she said personally that doesn't work for her. And that's the thing I learned on this journey throughout this year, is that to celebrate every milestone is not sustainable or realistic for you or the other people around you, because it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, think about it. If you have a person that do you know their spouse or their pet or their children's birthdays, anniversaries, and death anniversaries for all those people? Well, imagine that's what I was trying to do in real life before all this happened. I would just be like, hey, think about you. Hey, happy anniversary. Happy birthday. I was wearing myself out. And it's like the other people around me in an everyday circumstance, everybody's not gonna remember this person's birthday. Da, 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 da. So I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to do that. And then I was realizing I'm doing all this, and then people may not even do that for me. So I'm depleted because I'm over here trying to pour, 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 pour. And then what am I left with? So it sometimes I really have to stress this. I know that we were just reading about. I was just reading about this a few minutes ago in First John 3:16. We have to lay our lives down for our brothers and sisters. That's what it says. Live a sacrificial life. Is just that's what Jesus did. But even Jesus had boundaries. So
Yeah.
I'm learning like, girl, you sometimes you gotta go pray. Sometimes you gotta go be still. Go to a quiet place and rest a while, as he told his disciples. You have
Mm-hmm.
to learn how to say, let me shake the dust off my feet and go. I can't keep doing that because I'm going to wear myself out. And my therapist even stressed this to me. She said, you are on a boat and you have room for you on that boat. You're trying to add everybody else on that boat and it's capsizing you, and they're on the island fine. And and you just have to learn how to take care of you and
Mm-hmm.
let that be enough. And then you can have something, decide how much of you you're going to give. You can't give all of you to everybody.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's a difference between dosing and dumping, I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't dump your whole life on people. And like, dosing is like, hey, every maybe once a week you talk to somebody, and then it's not like you want to call and be like, hear my whole life story. Just learning how to like measure yourself out, ration yourself out, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's so hard to be a compassionate person because you will just do it and you're not even conscious of the fact, even when you try not to. And it's like it's like you're
So funny.
addicted to doing it, and you're like, I gotta learn how not to do this because this is going to wear me out. And she's like, you gotta learn 30 days, do nothing. Like, don't like focus on yourself.
It's
And
so funny.
because everybody kept passing, she's like, you're not even having a chance to really process your stuff because you trying to process everybody else's stuff and support them. And so
That's so funny. It's hard for me to relate to that because I don't think I have that much compassion. Like I have to try extra hard to be compassionate because eventually it runs out. And like I had a dear, dear friend who went through a season this summer where her boyfriend was murdered, and I was there for her
mm,
every day, literally almost for a month. And then I started to give her space on purpose because I literally needed to give myself space, not from her, but just I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, you're gonna have to go to grief share because I didn't understand. I could not, I literally couldn't relate anymore. I'm like, there's a difference between being there for somebody
yeah, it's
in their
compassion
time of need
fatigue.
and another time to like, oh, this is tap. I am. It's beyond my experience level. It's
Yeah,
beyond my compassion level. I literally have no idea what to give you, and I literally I would not her fault. I would just feel empty all the time because I'm
compassion
like,
fatigue.
yeah, I'm like I don't know what to do.
It's real.
So yeah, so I'm like, you're gonna have to reach out to people who can help you. I don't know. I want to be there. I was there for her. I didn't like ignore her or ghost her or anything like that. But
Right.
it's like, I go, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing that? Like, because I literally was out of ideas.
Yeah, and then we try to be everything to everybody that just doesn't work. And I have to get rid of the savior complex as well. Take off my superwoman cape. It's not happening no more. I had to like have a good laugh about that yesterday. I was like, I can't. I literally can't because I would take myself out of here trying to be there, to be everything to everybody because it's not
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can love people. Prayer is love. Talking to
Yeah.
them is love, but I can decide and have agency over the process of how I do that. So
Yeah.
that's something that I had to learn. It was so vital. And you're like, you're just one person on the team. You don't have to be the whole team. That's why they have therapists, therapy and
Right.
theology, Jesus and therapy. I stress that, wholeheartedly. Like, if I wouldn't have made it through this last year if I didn't have all that kind of support, because it like leaning on several people is not ideal like that. So it's like you have to have your people in place like before a crisis. That's something else. Like, don't wait till the crisis to be like, who is there? Who's in my corner? No, you need to know now. That's why, like, 6 months, something told me, I feel like it was God. 6 months before my daddy passed, I started going to therapy, and I found my therapist like 2 months. The one I'm talking to, I've been talking to for a year, and change. She is great, and so you have to really do that homework to figure out who your people are and connect with those people. Like, even now, still going to bereavement, still going to support group, and because those people can relate, I don't have to disclaimer. I can just say, hey, this is what it is, and then they like, I get you. And
Mhm.
so it's like, and then sharing what we learn with each other and just saying, I got you, I see you, and just that 1 hour a month is just so helpful to be able to talk to those people. I have two different ones I go to. And so it's vital to have that team, like near
Mhm.
or far, however that works. And that's what I learned. The support is vital. And you'll learn. That's what grief will teach you. Who are your people and who are not your people? Because some people are therapeutic and some people are toxic. So you have to
Mm.
know who are your people and who's going to be in your corner and show up for you like you showed up for them. And
Mhm.
it's a hard road to walk though, because I feel like that's something I've been struggling with in the Christian life. Is like, they say you're supposed to be there for everybody and love everybody and pray for everybody. You literally will find yourself burnt out.
Mhm.
So
So
that's why
good.
you gotta know your limit. You gotta know your limit. Like, okay, this far, even God had limits. He told the ocean how far to go. He said, oh, this is where the sky and the ocean, there's going to be something, a boundary in between them. You
Right.
know, he
Right.
he set limits when he was making the earth. So why do we feel like we can't set limits?
Right. That's so true. That
Yeah.
is so true. So I would love for you to choose. I always like to finish every podcast with a choice. For anyone that's going through maybe either a loved one is currently you're caring for them or they have
Hmm.
just passed, a word
Hmm.
of encouragement or a prayer, or you can literally do both. Your choice.
So I would just like to encourage anybody out there that's walking through this caregiving journey or this grief journey, wherever you find yourself, to know that loving yourself and taking care of yourself is important. Self-care, it really matters. It's not selfish. That's how you can continue to do something for your loved one. Otherwise, you won't have anything to give to them. And that's the best thing you could do for them, is to take care of yourself.
Mhm.
Boundaries are so vital, and just knowing who your people are is vital to the journey, any journey that you're walking through like that. Because that was one thing that I did. I didn't do the best at. I isolated myself during that time because I didn't think people understand, and I didn't want to burden and be a Debbie Downer and just have that's all I could talk about. And I felt like I was just they couldn't relate because that wasn't their life season. And maybe some people have kids or they have a spouse or whatever, but it's not the same as that kind of thing that I was going through with my dad. And so, just make sure you know who are your people, keep your boundaries, take care of yourself, love yourself, cling to God, stay in that word, put your praise and worship music on. Those worship snacks are essential. Make sure you move, even if you want to watch the gospel videos with the workout videos. They have channels where you can work out and you can listen to gospel. So find that so you can have the best of both worlds like that. And because that's worship too, when you moving, you grooving. David danced. So just understanding that all of these things, it's a whole it's just a whole journey that you have to go on with yourself, like to just keep yourself whole, like the podcast says, heal, hold, and call. So it's like we have to understand that it's essential that we as caregivers, whether you're taking care of a child, whether you're taking care of an older parent, or just a person who shows compassion relentlessly, you have to take care of yourself to be a caregiver. Give care to you. That is what you have to be really serious about, so that you continue to be able to do that, because otherwise you can't help anybody. So just make sure
That
y'all
is
know
awesome.
that.
That was so good. Well, thank you so much, Amber, for sharing your heart with us today. To our listeners, remember your story is never over. You are not disqualified by what you've been through or what you're even going through. And with Jesus Christ, you are healed, whole, and called. Till next time.
If today's conversation stirred something in you, a memory, a question, or a quiet sense of calling, I invite you to honor that. You can follow Healed, Whole, Called on the platform you're listening on. And if this episode resonated, leaving a review helps these conversations reach others who may need them. If you know someone walking a similar path, consider sharing this episode with them. And if you're carrying a story or testimony and feel a nudge to do something more with it, the Story Discernment Guide was created for you. It's a reflective resource designed to help you pause, pray, and gain clarity before taking any next step. You can access it at storycalling.info. Thank you for being here. and for stewarding what you've been given.